My talk today is called Keep the Internet Weird, and you'll figure out why a little bit later on. My name's Rachel White. I'm a self-taught developer, artist, technologist, creative coder, cyborg, ask me why later, technical evangelist at Microsoft, nice person. I'm also really bad at descriptors. Talking about myself is weird. I'm also Oho on Twitter, if you're interested in more things that I have to say. So this is going to be my love letter to the internet. I'm going to tell you a story about the things that I've done, the people that I've met, and the things that have led me to be up here on this stage today. We're going to start at the beginning. This right here is the VTech Socrates. It came out in 1988, and it's technically kind of my first computer. It's a video game device that was educational. It was educational, learning, and fun. You were able to do math problems, interior design, and just decorate houses, which has forever ruined me for playing The Sims. I don't actually play the game, I just make things look nice. It was my first tangible experience with connecting to technology, and from then on, I was pretty much ruined. This thing right here is Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Orpheo's Curse. And it is a point-and-click adventure game that was released in 1994. And what this is you just are like doing typical Are You Afraid of the Dark stuff, searching for mummies and your clues. And I didn't have a computer, but I made friends with people that did, just so I could go over their house and play it. Like, I was super hooked to anything I could get my hands on. And then I did get my own computer, and I turned into a horrible monster. If you know what this is AOL. It was released in 1995, and what it is it's a where's tool. As soon as I got a PC, I was like, wow, I have knowledge at my fingertips. Unfortunately, my dad had AOL, so the knowledge was kind of gatekeepered at my fingertips for whatever was accessible from the AOL site. But once I got AOL, I was able to manipulate some of the code that was in the programs and do horrible things like post links into chat rooms that if somebody clicked it, it would kick them off their dial-up modem. Then from there, I went on to IRC, and this was when I first really started interacting with people. And I chose this screenshot because it's the first way that I ever pirated things on the internet. These are XDCC bots, if anybody remembers what those were. Basically, an album would be so large, so you would have to send a message to a bot that had a bunch of compressed files that you would download piece by piece and get it in separate parts. So if your dial-up got disconnected because your sister picked up the phone or something, you'd be able to pick right back up and extract it later. So these were my first communicating with other people on the internet thing. Some of it's nice, some of it's illegal, but basically I was on the internet and I was like, yeah, this is rad, I need to do more. And then I discovered GeoCities and AngelFire. And my connection with GeoCities and AngelFire is when I first started making my own things. I made sites for wrestlers because I was really into wrestling, like WCW wrestling. I made sites for Blink-182 because I was super obsessed with them and they were really cool. I also thought I was super punk, so I had all these cool animated dolls and stuff. And when I was on those sites is when I started learning how to program. And I didn't learn how to program because I was like, I want to program, it's going to be so cool, and I'm going to make a lot of money. I did it out of necessity because I just wanted my voice to be heard and I wanted to put myself out there. And then I found web rings. So when I started thinking about my journey and connections with the internet, I realized that so much of it was a result of exploration and discovery. And it's pretty much because I wasn't happy with the life that I had in rural Florida. The people that were around me I didn't get along with. They didn't have common interests with me. But people on the internet did, and I could find anybody that was interested in any of the same things that I was. And I could talk to them, and we could exchange ideas, and it was really inspiring. It was a type of escapism that opened me up to new ideas. And when I started making sites on GeoCities and AngelFire, I realized how fun it was to learn and share that information. But then, through web rings, in about early-ish 2000, I discovered personal sites. So I saw these networks of extremely well-curated sites, impeccably designed with attention to detail, carefully written entries and crafted lists of other people to follow and check out. And they weren't just sites like we have personal sites now. I'm sure we all have personal sites. We all have blogs. This is pre-WordPress. This is actually a software called Gray Matter, which was Perl, and it just saved all your entries locally. But all of these sites were people that were helping educate each other and share knowledge, and it wasn't because they were trying to boost their ego about how much stuff that they knew or how many things that they could, share out there. It was people that were self-taught and learning how to do their own design, learning how to do their own scrollable divs and their own link changes. And it was mostly younger women, and it was really cool, and it was really welcoming. That you could be able to find out how to, size your font the best way so that 8 pixels or 10 pixels looked the coolest. You could learn how to, use grunge brushes on Photoshop, which were like the coolest things ever. So I found all these other teenagers, and I knew that I really wanted to be a part of it. So I still remember the first site that I came across when I was like, cool, this is awesome. I found this woman. Her name's Melissa. This is glebe.com. And she was the first person that I really found that was like, wow, I really like her entries. I really, really like the music she likes, all the things that are really cool. Also, content warning, this is 2002, 2010. There might be some bad things in all of these entries that you'll see. Fair warning, I didn't proofread. I loved all the other sites that she hosted. A host-hosty relationship is when someone has their own domain name and they give other space to other people, and then you can share, and usually it's people that have similar interests. So I could go on all these other sites and find people like Melissa, who I identified with, and find out the way that they did things. And I wanted to be like Melissa, and I wanted to put my voice out there, so I did. This is one of my very first personal sites. My AIM name was Bam and Pontius Chick because I really loved the show Jackass. The site was called I Throw Shoes because I thought it was really cool to take shoes off of crowd surfers and throw them as far as I could because I was short and they kicked me in the head all the time. But this was the first place that I really got to express myself and find out other information and be able to dive into Lissa Explains and find out all the HTML help that I ever wanted. There was less egos, and people were just willing to help other people out because it meant more friends with cool sites to check out or trade link buttons with. I eventually grew out of having a hosty site, and I wanted my own domain name. So I got this one. Well, these two. I finally convinced my parents to let me have some hosting. It was probably 1&1 or GoDaddy or something like that. And then I was finally on my way. I got obsessed with grunge brushes, as you can see. And I had a lot of domain names with the things that were inspired by my favorite lyrics. So a lot of the domain names were like screamo and punk band stuff, like Burn That Wish or Car Chase Terror, though that's like M83, and they're not very punk. It was reflective of the internet at the time with the tiny text, the scrollable divs, the live webcam, the stat counters, which is the Twitter follower count of how popular you were in 2001. And I just started thinking about the environment at that time and thought how good it felt to code through discovery. And every time I saw something be done a new way, I wanted to know how to do it. And asking questions was encouraged, and people really loved to help. And I knew that I wasn't the only one. So of course, I do the thing that everyone does when they have an idea on the internet, and I decided to write a Medium think piece about it. So I put the call out on Twitter, and I was like, hey friends, did you have personal domains, or were you writing HTML and CSS not for a job in the late 90s, early 2000s? Talk to me about it. And they totally did. And I found that a ton of people had the same path as me, or a little bit different, through MySpace, Neopets, CSS for LiveJournal, anime fan sites, GeoCities, other people that know the good quality of a good grunge paintbrush. Everything. It was all self-discovery. And then I was like, cool, all these people similar to me did this same thing. I wonder if they learned the same way. So I asked Were you doing HTML, CSS, JS in the early 2000s? Where did you get your coding info from online? For me, it was Lissa Explains and Dynamic Drive. And again, the responses were overwhelming. It was all the same stuff. People were using CSS Zen Garden, WebMonkey, HTML goodies, Lissa Explains, Dynamic Drive, and the ever-popular View Source, which everyone does. That kind of stuff isn't really popular right now. But it was still exploratory and fun. And it made me realize, obviously, when communities are nice, more people want to be a part of them. And don't we all want our communities to be nice because we enjoy the things that we make, hopefully, and we want other people to contribute to that too? I would like to think so, which then led me to think, when did communities stop being nice? And I found a certain trend in the areas that I thought it might have been. And it was about 2007 and 2008. And it's something that happened, some websites that came out then. It's the gamification of knowledge sharing. And it sucks. Sure, it's helpful, but people aren't necessarily being helpful because they care about you and they want to help you. They're helping you because they want points, arbitrary points out on the internet. So I know that people make jQuery jokes a lot, and there's nothing wrong with jQuery. I've written a lot of it. It's great for people that are learning. But I think that people make these type of jokes, myself included, directly because of the reason of the gamification of sharing. We're asking for vanilla JavaScript answers, and we're getting jQuery answers, not because somebody cares about us or they want to help us. They just want to hear themselves be heard. And while, yeah, the jQuery solves the same problem, it's not necessarily what we wanted. And while this is a problem, I think that we can fix it. What we want is more ideas. And more people is more knowledge sharing. So yeah, people are getting involved in communities means more knowledge sharing, but when you add in the gamification, you're taking away the passion. And I think that's pretty bad. We need more ideas and less echo chambers. We need more people sharing ideas freely and encouraging code exploration and less gatekeepered echo chambers. So now that we know why things could have maybe went so horrible, let's take a fun little stroll back between the internet then and the internet now. So I'm going to give you some cool site how-tos for the early 2000s, starting with the coolest layout techniques, slices and tables. Has anybody made a website like this? Is anybody happy that they never have to do this ever again? OK, so if you're not familiar, basically what you would do is your designer would lay out your site in Photoshop. Responsive design didn't exist, so it didn't matter what it looked like. And then you would take this slice tool, and you would draw out all the sections that were important. You could even have rollovers in each of these little sections, so when somebody moused over, they would be able to, like, home will turn orange, because who needs CSS? We've got images and tables. And so there's a lot of sites that looked like this at the time, and thank goodness most of that is over. The other things that we did, which obviously this is my site with my cool haircut from 2003, lots of absolutely positioned divs. It didn't matter because, we didn't care about responsive design then. It wasn't really a thing. So I could lay out this whole entire site, throw my grunge brushes all over it, and I'm like, OK, cool. I know where this scrollable div needs to go, and XY00 is obviously the top left, and that's not going to make a difference because no one's going to resize this div anyway. And so this is probably more popular for the communities that I frequented then. And a lot of the women making personal sites would also spend a lot of time making really elaborate websites. So you would still have the image slicing, like image map techniques, because obviously that really cool font over on the left side is not any kind of web font in 2003. But this was popular. And luckily, today is better. We have way more things. We have way more cool things than we did back then because we have more people contributing to cool open source projects and more people working on getting specs integrated by browsers. So, if you're getting started out, you can rely on way better things like CSS Grid, if it works in your browser, Flexbox, tachyons, which I use all the time because I'm lazy and it's great and it makes things look good without even having to try, and base CSS. So now that we have the layouts covered, we're going to talk about really cool fancy things. Fancy things like DHTML. So, the application of DHTML was actually introduced by Microsoft, but I swear that's not like, hey, I work there. It's just a thing, and if you have heard the term static site before, a static site is just being HTML and CSS. You throw some JavaScript in there, and it manipulates the DOM. Guess what? You've got DHTML. So it was basically a way for Microsoft with Internet Explorer 4 to be like, look how fancy this is. We're so cool. People like IE, right? And so you could do some fancy things like cursor effects. So while you're mousing around in the browser, you have this cool star trail of plus signs and ASCII characters or bubbles or stars or whatever, because you're cool and you want other people to enjoy using your site, so you put stars on there. And one cool thing is this is still on Dynamic Drive, so you can go back and look at all code. And I put some of the old code up here for you to see. I'm not going to go through it because we're the last talk and I don't have all day to tell you about how we got some cool star effects. But I do have an extremely cool live demo from 2001. So let's check that out really quick. Got to find which way that browser is. Cool. All right. Oh no. 1 second. Cool. So here's a really nice one. In case you make a site about some really cool celebrity you got a crush on and you want people to know how much you want to kiss them, you can put that cool kissing trail on there. Here's another good one of, maybe it's winter, you want to celebrate the cold weather, you're going to have some snow falling. And then, maybe you are a really big fan of scuba diving, so you want some bubbles to fall up on your site. You could do all of this and more with DHTML and Dynamic Drive, which was all copy and paste code snippets and just ridiculousness. So you're in luck, too, because not only was today better for DHTML stuff, too, we're going to talk about why, and it's because of literally everything. Literally everything is better than what you were able to do in 2001 with JavaScript. Every single client framework that changes the DOM, 3's.js is great, P5, Vue, A-Frame. You can do VR in the browser now. If you told me that in 2005, I would have been like, sure, OK. I mean, you can even control hardware with JavaScript. The limits are endless. So while we've made so many steps technology, we still have more work to do. The code has changed, but the people haven't. For the most part, the ways that we communicate has changed, and we have a lot of work to do to fix the damage that the gamification of knowledge sharing has shaped some of our dev communities. There's still the same good people trying to find a way to help out and create a good sense of community. So support your communities, your local communities, your global communities, other communities that you're not a part of. Support them all. When I started the journey of writing this talk from the Medium article to being here on this stage today, I realized something, and that's that never in my life have I felt more supported than I did in the early 2000s as I do right now. So I went to JSConf 2014 as my first conference ever. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know who Tom Dale was. I didn't know who Paul, well, I knew who Paul Irish was. Sorry, Tom. But, there was a ton of people. I didn't know who they were. I was just pumped to be there and to learn. And I kept to myself. This is me lurking behind the dunk tank where I dunked everyone. And I learned so much. And honestly, this conference changed my life. I met this friendly guy, and I'm lucky enough to, I'm going to get emotional. He took the time out to be nice to me, and he told me about Brooklyn JS, and when I got back to New York, I went, and I met so many good people that were friendly to me and nice to me, and they were just like people that cared. And they're people that put people before code, and I think that's important. They inspired me, whoa! They inspired me and motivated me that I could do whatever I wanted, as long as I just tried. And that's really important, and you can have that too. If you don't have the communities available to you in your area, make them. There are people out there that are willing to help make whatever you want to be a welcoming and inclusive space. Trust me, reach out to me, reach out to the organizers. They're willing to help. They'll be more than happy to give that to you. And in case you don't know, here are some helpful communities. There's WeAllJS, which is a really fantastic organization that is JavaScript focused, and it's inclusive to everyone, and it's just really helpful and nice, and they have a Slack and a Twitter, and they have conversations. And then there's Code Newbie, which is welcoming for everyone, every language. They have chats every week on Twitter where you can talk about what you're learning for programming and get help. And Saran just had her first conference, which was Codeland, and it was amazing. It was like the most inclusive event that I've ever been to in my life, and they like applauded people as they were leaving, and it was like so welcoming and so nice, and it made people feel good about development. There's also Your First PR, which is made by Charlotte, is on Twitter, and it's basically partnering with organizations to encourage tagging on your issue queues for things that people might be able to help out with. And then there's Node Together with Ashley Williams started, which has taught people that are from underrepresented minorities how to learn how to program Node all over the world, and I'm lucky enough that she let me take control of it and be able to continue doing that. And so, I guess the whole point of Keep the Internet Weird to me is don't stifle creativity. Code exploration is important. Not being afraid of trying new things is extremely important. We need to foster growth in our communities instead of making people be afraid to be a part of them. We need people to try new things for the sake of trying them. And so, Keep the Internet Weird is pretty much my motto to motivate me when I'm feeling like I can't do anything. And I have these stickers, so if you want them, come bother me later. I have a lot of them. I actually commissioned these from an amazing designer called Skullface, because I wanted some really cool slides and stickers for you. So, in case you want to talk to me after this, I'm Oho on Twitter. My GitHub, where I open source everything I could possibly be able to open source and comment it if I can, is there. And then my extremely narcissistic domain names are Rachel is awesome and I'm cool online. Thank you. Please keep the internet weird.